I was standing on my back porch a few nights ago, just staring up at the sky, checking out the different cloud formations. It was dusk, the sun had gone down, but, it was a pretty magnificent looking sight, to see. I mean, you never see the same sky twice. I mean, unless it's solid blue, okay? But, when there's clouds up there, I mean, the formations are never the same. They change from, second after second. It's always something different. You're never going to see the same thing twice. But, I was looking up there and I'm thinking, what do our visitors have that they're using, that they can use, that they possibly use, that they might be using to surveil us, to see us, to spy on us? And if they're here, like a lot of us believe that they are, I believe that they are. I've seen one of their craft. I believe that I had an encounter with one of these beings. I also believe, I've talked about these things before in other podcasts, so I'm not going to get into it here, but I also believe that one of my pets back in the 2007 was abducted by these beings. It disappeared under mysterious circumstances and then reappeared 2.5 hours later. And I'm not going to get into that story here, but take my word for it. All the details of that event were extremely odd. A lot of things just didn't make any sense. When I was a kid, I saw something. There was something in my room. I didn't know what it was, and this was back in the late 70s, and I was about 8 years old, close to 9, and I wake up in the middle of the night. I have a thin blue blanket that's over my head. The light was on in the room, and I could see the silhouette, the shadow of a hand, getting closer to where my head was, and then moving away. And of course, in 1994, August of 1994, during a fishing trip, a nighttime fishing trip, something showed up at 10 o'clock, 10:30, around 10 o'clock at night. An object showed up that made no sound and was hovered 2.5 stories above the ground, 10 feet right in front of me. No sound whatsoever. This thing was as big as a house, just floating there. And I saw it, and my buddy that was there, he saw it. We both saw it. We were both shocked. So I know that there's something going on here. I know that there are visitors here, things that are operating machines that we just don't have. Like that thing that I saw flying that night back in 1994, there's no question in my mind. It had to be operated by intelligent beings that were not human. We don't have that kind of stuff. And then, and all the different evidence that's accrued over the years from the different reports given by people. I mean, who could deny also in 1994, the Zimbabwe Incident, where the bunch of school kids, 60 of them, in Africa saw, aerial school. Actually, there was just a recent documentary that just came out about that whole incident. A bunch of young kids see landed craft and alien beings that communicated with them telepathically. We can't deny that this happened. I mean, we they're here. They're I don't know what they're doing. They've engaged with us for some purpose. We don't know what that purpose is exactly. It's all pure speculation. I mean, there's never been, they never landed and made any, formal announcement on what they're doing. In fact, it seems like secrecy is their big deal, except for, every now and then when they show up in front of a bunch of kids, like at Ariel school. And things like that happen at other schools, too. It seems like they're not afraid to approach kids because I guess they feel less threatened. You approach an adult, I mean, who knows what an adult might do. But they're not afraid of the kids. But anyway, they're here, and they have the ability to spy on us, to watch us, and they could be watching you right now. I guess it was a few months back, there was an article, the Mirror, the UK Mirror, and it was an interview with Nick Pope, And I'm going to read some of this article to you, and then I will leave a link in the description so you could, if you want to check it out yourself. But I'm going to just go through some of this article. And the headline reads, "Seagulls could be alien spies sent to watch us," UFO expert claims. A UFO expert believes that seagulls could be alien spies sent to Earth to spy on humanity, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Nick Pope, who worked as a government advisor and investigated UFOs for the Ministry of Defense, urged people to be distrustful of the greedy gulls. He said that besides stealing chips and ice creams, they could pose a more serious threat by collecting evidence for an advanced alien race. Nick said that aliens could be using the birds to surveil us and send secrets back to their mothership. He said this. He said, if aliens want to hack into and control a living organism or construct a drone that's a perfect mimic, it would be best to choose something ordinary and ubiquitous, like a seagull or a housefly, something you wouldn't normally pay attention to, perhaps. But all the time it would be spying on us, recording everything and sending information about us back to their alien homeworld. So next time you move to swat that fly, watch out! Your actions might inadvertently start an interstellar war. He added, if aliens are secretly monitoring Earth, they'll be doing it up close and personal, not with distant telescopes, but a way that would enable them to get crystal clear images and recordings right under our noses. Any civilization capable of getting here from other star systems undoubtedly has technology that would seem like magic to us, and one possibility is that they might be able to implant a living creature with tiny cameras and recording devices, and then control its thoughts to position it anywhere of interest. A related alternative would be to construct drones that are indistinguishable from an animal, a bird, or an insect. If that sounds like science fiction, it isn't. Perhaps people have probably seen on the internet some images of insect-like drones that spy agencies allegedly use. And then he goes on here, says, as ever, if that's the stuff they're showing you, what else have they got that they aren't showing you? By way of comparison, aircraft like the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber were flying for years before they were public knowledge. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but I mean, you get the idea. And actually, this article came out in April of this year. And I actually talked about this during a podcast before that. I know it was some months before that I had broached this issue. So I mean, this is basically the collective unconscious, at work here. I mean, you start realizing, people start beginning to realize, well, hey, wait a minute. If we could do this, what are they able to do? And believe me, once you accept the fact that they're here, then you have to accept the fact that they would have technology that, like in this department, that far surpasses anything that we've got. And that's a scary thought. The mouse that you see running, in the yard, is it really a mouse? Or maybe it is a mouse and it has some sort of device on it that's spying on you. And then, of course, there's, alien abductees themselves. They get implants. So these implants, I mean, some have been removed, like the late Dr. Roger Lear removed a lot of these objects from alien abductees, and these objects were unearthly. It seems like, nerves inside the human body would attach to these things, and and these human bodies that they were abducted into didn't respond negatively to these devices. They didn't treat it like an intruder. Like if you get a splinter, in your hand, your body reacts. There's pain, and there's, your body's telling, hey, you got to get this out of here. But with these things, with these objects, these unearthly objects that some abductees have implanted in them, they don't act like that. The bodies of these people accept these things, and the nerves grow around them, and there's no like no evidence of injury, no evidence of inflammation. It's all. It seems like these objects become like natural parts of the body, or the body thinks it's a natural part of the body, and it isn't. Some sort of metal or some sort of device that we can't understand. But what are these devices? Are they devices that are used to? I mean, could they use our bodies? If we have a device in us, could they see whatever we're seeing, hear whatever we're hearing from a distance somewhere? Is that possible? Why wouldn't it be? It probably is. If we have to accept, if we accept that they're here. Now, some of us don't accept that, of course. Some of us, like we talk about many times, some of us are just pretending. We're trying to push this, reality into the background. We don't want to think about that right now. We're too worried about everything that's going on here, and we should be. We have lots of problems here, amongst ourselves, without having to worry about alien visitors. But at the same time, we need to be able to walk and chew gum, because they're here, and we need to begin to accept that. But, they're watching us. They could be watching you right now. They could be watching me. There could be, it doesn't need to be a seagull or a fly, like Nick Pope is saying. It could be something you can't even see. It could be a tiny little speck that that floated through the door, with dust, and it's so tiny it's invisible and can't be seen. I mean, who knows what they're capable of doing? If something's 100,000, a billion years more advanced than we are, it's just unclear exactly what they're capable, what that kind of a civilization would be capable of doing. Now, a lot of people are gonna, would think that this sounds crazy. Well, yeah, it does sound crazy. To some people have probably thought of this before, and it doesn't sound crazy. But to those who haven't thought about this before, it's not that crazy. It sounds reasonable, because it is reasonable. Just look at what we can do right now. I could, like, say I drive away somewhere, and I wreck my car, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, nobody could find me, and I'm incapacitated, but my cell phone's there. Police would be able to find me, figure out where I am by pinging my cell phone. So the things that we don't even think about, we take for granted. And the things that we're able to do compared to what we were able to do 40 years ago, it's like science fiction. If 40 years ago, if somebody were to tell me that that we would have cell phones and explain what the cell phones are capable of doing, that I could actually talk to somebody, not only just talk to somebody, but we could have a video conference on the cell phone, see each other's faces. Back then, 40 years ago, that stuff was far-fetched science fiction. The idea of having drones and being able to order things on an internet system and have it delivered to your door the very next day. It's amazing the things that we the technological advances we've had over just the last few decades. Well, the point of all of this is that our visitors might know a lot more about us than we know about ourselves. They're actually literally outside of the box, and they're looking in, and they could see. And believe me, they're here for a reason, and they're watching us, and they're interested in us for whatever purpose I do not know. But they are here, and they're paying attention. And at the same time, they're keeping their distance. But they are watching us, and we just don't know how they might be accomplishing that. Because I don't even know if we're capable of imagining the high level of their technology. I mean, because we don't know how many years more advanced than they are than we are. I mean, again, if it's 1,000 years, okay, maybe our imagination would be able to dream up something like that. I'm not sure, but maybe. But I would venture to guess that they could be hundreds of thousands of years more advanced than we are, or maybe even 1,000,000 years. And you know, if that's the case, I mean, it's just we wouldn't know. You know, a lot of abductees, you know, some of them, you know, they say they actually see these things walking through walls. Imagine to have the ability to walk through solid matter, to move through solid matter. It sounds insane right now, but maybe, you know, at some point in the far future, our scientists will figure something like that out too. Figure out how to do something like that. I think the imagination of man as time goes on is endless. It's boundless. You know, at some point we're gonna. I mean, look what we're doing right now compared to what we were doing 100 years from now. But right now, you know, we're being viewed, we're being watched, we're being spied upon by these alien beings. There's a lot of people we all go about our daily lives completely oblivious to this, but it's happening. It's happening. And obviously they're very interested in our military capabilities, and that's why a lot of these craft are seen, you know, hovering over our nuclear weapons facilities. You know, they seem to be very interested in our fighter jets and naval ships. You know, they're watching us. They're looking at us. They're trying to figure out how we tick, and they probably already know how we tick. And what else do they need to know? I don't know. What's the end game here? Where does it end? And at some point, do they just say, oh, you know, is there going to be some sort of a big surprise that's, you know, coming our way with regard to these visitors that we just have no idea? It's coming at us like a train, like a freight train, out of control. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. You know, I would imagine that the people within the government, the secret agencies that know about this, that know about these visitors, are, you know, constantly weighing and the dangers and the possibilities, and I'm sure they know a lot more than I do. You know, and it would be nice if all of us knew this. I think it would be better if all of us, you know, were briefed on our visitors, so we all could think about what it all means. You know, I guess there's concerns about, you know, the panic that will most certainly be caused by such an announcement. But, you know, once people start, you know, think about this again. Once there is an announcement, people are going to start realizing that they could be, you know, under surveillance by these beings. And I would, like, again, I believe that some of us are. Maybe all of us. I mean, again, look what we can do. I mean, you see, like, you know, people could, like, just what the police have. You know, when they arrest somebody, they have the body cams. You know, and then we get to watch all the action unfold on YouTube. You know, Twitter, TikTok. You know. You could get a pair of glasses that have little cameras in it and film it. People have little cameras outside of their house. You know, I could have a ring service. You know, I could be, you know, in another country somewhere, and somebody could ring my doorbell or try to break into my house, and I'll get alerted to it, and I'll see a live shot, live camera feed, live streaming camera of that person standing at my door. I mean, again, that's this technology. That's, you know, it's amazing what we have now. But again, and then as a person who knows for a fact that there's a presence here, an extraterrestrial presence, right? You know, I know for a fact. You know, I've had experiences. You know. And I know a lot of these other people that have had experiences, that claim to have experiences. I know a lot of these people aren't lying. You know, I know that they're not crazy. I know they weren't seeing things. You know, it's just the way it is. I know there's a lot of people out there who will get all huffy and puffy and say, well, no, you don't know what you're talking about because it's not been proven yet. Again, you know, there's a group of people out there who do not want to accept this, and the only way it's not even clear if they will accept it. Like once, say, someone from the government steps forward and actually states for a fact the reality, finally, there will be people who will not want to accept this. And here's the problem, though. There will be some people who, you know, are going to be very afraid. And again, the realization that, okay, not only are they here, but they're watching us. They could be watching us individually. For whatever purpose, who knows? I mean, maybe, like, just say, for instance, there's somebody who's an alien abductee. They have an implant. They don't even realize they have an implant. They don't even realize they're being abducted. There's some people, I would believe this, there's some people out there who consciously remember alien abduction experiences. Like they actually consciously remember at least part of it, and then they'll go and they'll see a psychiatrist, they'll get hypnotized, and then, you know, they'll remember the rest of it. And then there are other people out there who end up having strange experiences like missing time, or, you know, and they have suspicions that they might be an alien abductee, but they just don't want to even think about it. They don't want to investigate that. They don't want to be hypnotized. They're afraid. They don't want to face it. And I don't, who could blame them? Nobody would want that to be happening to them. And I believe there's also other group of people out there who could be abductees that have no idea whatsoever. Could have been happening their whole lives, and they would have no clue that it's been going on. And then there's the rest. And the rest, I believe there's a large group of people. And this is all pure speculation on my behalf, but I would imagine there's a large group of people out there who have not been abducted. So, you know, but the fact is that when you begin to accept it, after you accept it, then you realize that the other implications of accepting it. You know, people worry about their rights being infringed if the government's spying on them. You know, well, I got something to tell you. You know, it's really not the government you need to be worried about. I think you need to be worried about these visitors. You know, they could be watching you right now. Right now. There could be something inside your house, an object that, you know, you can't see. Could be invisible. I'm sure that they have invisibility technology. There's no question that they would. We have stuff like that. Our government has been working on ways to make craft invisible. So they have ways of doing it too. In fact, you know, a lot of times these things, so some people have seen these things just disappear right in front of them. Sometimes it seems like they just flew away extremely fast, and other times they just look like they faded away, as if some sort of technology was put into play to make that craft invisible. So they're here, and they could do this, and they could see us, they could see you, if they wanted to. Again, we don't know why, but it's something to think about, and it's something to be concerned about. It is a concern. It should be a concern for everybody. Everybody that understands that there is a presence here. You know, there could be a bunch of invisible probes floating throughout the skies, floating all around us. We can't see them. You know, again, objects could be implanted in us that are tracking everything we do. Maybe like these abductees, right? You know, So, it's time to abduct somebody again for whatever purpose, breeding purposes, hybridization program, whatever purpose it is. It's time for these beings to abduct somebody again. But, they need to make sure that there's nobody around. And the way they know this, because they put an implant in this person, and okay, that implant shows that there's no other human beings within this distance, or okay, there's this person here, there's that person there, and there's another person, in the corner. So we got to make sure that we got to do this in a way that those people don't see it. What's going to happen here? Or they're going to put those certain people that are surrounding the target. They're going to make those people basically turn them off. There's been reports that if there's somebody who's getting abducted regularly, but there's other people, like say it's a family, and there's one of the people who's say the mother, the wife, the mother figure in the family is getting abducted all the time. But there's the husband, and there's some kids in the house too. There's been reports that somehow everybody else there gets shut off, basically turned off like a light during the abduction process. And basically, in a way, they're being affected too. They just don't even know it. They'll end up losing a little bit of time, but again, these aliens have the ability to even make you forget about that you lost the time. Or make you think that, it's nothing to worry about. Like somehow there's a suggestion put inside people's minds that, hey, that's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. And then they forget about it. I mean, I've had an experience before. I was driving down a highway, and I broad daylight, and I thought it was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In my head, I thought it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then when I got to my destination, I realized it was it was 4 o'clock, but I don't know for a fact, that something happened to me that day. All I know is that I think I made a mistake. I think I got confused about what time it was. And I actually feel that way right now. I'm not saying I was abducted. I'm just saying I feel confused about that. When I think about that day, I think I must have just got confused about the time. Like, I don't think anything happened because I was wide awake. I was driving down a highway. But again, looking back now, how the hell do I really know? Was I shut off in the middle of driving down the highway and then placed right back into the spot where I was and then turned back on again? I'm not saying that's what happened. I think I actually believe I was confused, but I'm just saying they would have the ability to do things like that. They could mold us like putty in their hands. And so it's not inconceivable that they would use different animals around us, birds, insects, anything, as spies. All over the place. There's birds all over the place. Every time you walk out your house, when I walk out my house here where I live in Pennsylvania, there's birds everywhere. All kinds, sitting on the wires. It doesn't have to be seagulls like Nick Pope says. It could be anything. It could be any bird. It could be any bug. It could be any little animal crossing the street. Who knows? But it could even be something that you can't even see. I would actually, but who again? This is all speculation. But I would think that they could actually do things that you wouldn't even be able to see. And I do think that they are watching some of us, at least at some points, at some time. And you were probably viewed. In fact, I think you could be standing outside, walking down the street, and you could look up and there's nothing there, and really there is something there. It could be hovering right over your head, and you can't see it. Because the aliens operating what the object is above your head have technology to make itself look invisible, so you can't see it in broad daylight. That's what's going on here, folks. It's scary. It's no question about it. It's frightening. But once you accept that they're here, you have to accept all the other implications of that. And one of those implications is the ability of these visitors to surveil us. And they are. Some of us are surveilled. I am certain of that. Whatever the reasons are, I don't know. But it's happening. I know there's a lot of people out there, right, who think they know what's happening. I don't know how they know that. Unless they're working with the government and have access to information and data that the government has compiled over the last 75 years. Other than that, I don't know how you would know anything. How many alien species there are, there's no way you can know that. Nobody knows. No human could possibly know how many visitors are here, and nobody could possibly know the extent of their technological abilities. Nobody could know that. Except you do have to realize it's only common sense to understand that yes, they would have the ability to spy on people. And again, I don't know why they would want to do that. I don't know why anybody would want to spy on anybody. Life's too short. But I think they are doing that in some cases. I don't know why. And I would venture the guess that at some point we might find out. Maybe not in our lifetimes here, but at some point we might find out. And it might not be something we want to find out. Or maybe it will be. Again, nobody knows. So, next time you're driving your car, next time you're sitting in your back porch, sitting in your yard, taking a swim, just know it's very possible there's eyeballs on you that are inside the head of a being that you just don't even know exists, that you wouldn't believe is real. That to you would seem like a monster. Something to be afraid of. And, it's just a fact of life. Again, there's a lot of us out there who know that these things are here, that these beings are here. And I know that a lot of people out there don't want to accept that. And, that's fine. That's how you have to do. You want to deal with life. You want to go through life with blinders on to reality. Well, that's your prerogative. That's you should be able to do that. Anybody, if somebody wants to put blinders on to a reality that they do not want to accept, that's up to them. I don't know why you'd want to do that. There's people out there who actually run around proclaiming that the earth is flat still in this day and age, when we know for a fact that it's not. I mean, we all know. So you have to wonder, why do these people think that? I don't know. Because they just don't want to believe the world is round. And they have all sorts of crazy conspiracies as to why it's not round. And none of it makes any sense. No scientific sense whatsoever. So, and that would be, as far as I'm concerned, those people who still refuse to accept the reality that extraterrestrials are here, they're no different than the people who are running around saying that the earth is flat. Because they're here. You have blinders on. You have prevented yourself from educating yourself on this subject. And you really should get up to speed, because at some point there's going to be something's going to happen. And you don't want to be caught with your pants down when it does. You don't want to be completely surprised. Oh my God, it is real. You don't want to be surprised. And you want to be careful. Say you're out in the woods, you're taking a walk through the woods, you don't know what's out there. I mean, yeah, there could be, you could get attacked by a bear, a skunk could spray you. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen in the wild. But there's other things that could happen in the wild. That's a perfect time for, an alien to swoop down and pick you up and take you in their craft and do what they're going to do, and then put you back down again. Treat you like a wild, like the way we treat some wild animals. Put a tag on them and throw them back in the wild after you shooting them with a tranquilizer. So yeah, keep it in mind. And you know, yeah, then again, you could just pretend it's not real. You know, if you know, you could, you know, just pretend.